Okay.
So, what I'm going to do is just kind of prompt with a few questions, and then maybe the back 30 minutes of this thing will be just open for questions.
Great.
And if you do have any specific questions that you want, you can type them into the chat area, and I'll be sure to try and address those the best that I can. Hi, Aaron. Cool. Well, Claire, please tell us your backstory. It's very interesting.
So I have a degree from Berklee College of Music in composition and a minor in audio engineering. After college, I went on the road through the Midwest for a while with a band, and then I realized that I don't like performing live. So, and one of my old teachers from Berklee said, "Hey, come out to California. There's going to be lots of work." And so I did, and there wasn't a lot of work. So I got a job during the day in a radio syndication company, and then at night I went to a recording studio and worked for free. And then that way I got to know people from town, musicians from town. And oh yeah, before that even, I was working in a recording studio at night for free in New York, where I'm from originally. And then, you know, working real hard to network and making demos when I could. I started to get to know more people, and that turned into doing jingles for the radio stations that I was working with. And from that, I got a record deal. I wound up getting a record deal. It's not all like, then I did jingles, then I got a record deal. It all happens over time. But meeting people was great, and I got a record deal. I did pretty well with the record. I was producing records. And then I was tired of not getting paid by the record companies. So I started doing library music, because also I had a kid at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to make a living. What am I going to do? So back then, library was not what it is now. Back then, library was like background music for soap operas and stuff like that. And a lot of it was kind of shitty. But I came in with an attitude of like, no, I make records, so these are going to be good. And lucky for me, the guy who hired me has been hiring me for like 25 years. So I've been working for Universal for like 25 years. But in the meantime, I also do, music for film and TV on the side. I also do records. And I'm starting a library company of my own, and also a record company. So that's me in a nutshell. You also can look at my IMDb, and you can look at my wiki page and stuff. But I've worked with a lot of really, really amazing players and amazing songwriters, and I've been lucky to, my Rolodex is nice, and and it pays the bills. So that's me in a nutshell. I produce, I write, I orchestrate. I do a lot of things, like a lot of musicians.
And you've recently relocated to Kansas City, right? So you're
right. Well, not relocated, yeah. Located.
Yeah.
I've never been here before.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and actually, I really like it. I gotta say, it's a great. It's close enough to LA where I can go for meetings if I need to, but I really like living here. It's such a different vibe. People live here, they do stuff. In LA, everybody's like, it's really aggressive all the time and very cutthroat. I mean, the business is a really hard business. Maybe Nashville is probably a little better, But you know, the world of music is so difficult, I think, that people become very aggressive about it, even if on the surface they're not.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
We don't do that here. None of that. Would you mind just explaining a little bit more? You know, the idea of writing for a library is a pretty new thing for our community. I think Jeff Freeling got a few placements in a library. He's on with us. So a few of us know what it is, but could you educate us what that means today and what your library is going to be looking like?
Okay, so writing for library runs the gamut. It goes all the way from like big orchestral stuff to total electronic to dance to it's every style. And the reason it is so popular is because there's a lot of content out there that needs music. And the more reality TV-ish it is, the more they need music. I mean, I worked on a show that was about drag racing. And man, if you didn't have music, you know, from beginning to end, it was boring, you know, because they're like taking, you know, they're cranking the wheel and they're doing all this stuff. And it's like, when you look at that without music, it's boring. So you, as the writer, have to tell everybody what to think. Oh, this is a dangerous thing he's doing, so let's make it sound dangerous, you know? So you're writing every different kind of thing. And the thing about library is that you want to make it does not replace a score for a movie. I mean, it can't, you know, it's not meant to. But you want to try to have different things in it that will make people feel a certain way. Like right now, I'm writing for a project that's children and families. And so there's a lot of like pizzicato strings, and there's a lot of little bell sounds and music box sounds. And, you know, right now, my palette is pizzicato strings, acoustic guitars, bells. You know, I have a bunch of samples of music boxes that I love, whistles, you know, things that sound from the loving the new baby idea to wacky kids running around, you know? So you're creating a scene, and then they'll put that in something. I watch a lot of commercials. I mean, my significant other is always like trying to go past the commercial. I'm like, no, that's what I'm listening for, because I want to hear what they're using, you know, because a lot of those commercials, I mean, I've had local commercials here already, you know, that I've seen, you know, but you know, all of these commercials are also where they go. The music goes for radio, it goes for TV commercials, it goes for TV shows. I just had something, I mean, if you go to my website, I think I put in my latest pieces, but I'm like always on Dateline, and I'm on Dancing with the Stars, and So You Think You Can Dance. I was on Glee. I was on a bunch of different things. So you're looking for it. You're looking for a format, and you follow the format, and you write music that follows a certain feeling, and then you put that together.
Is that how that's indexed, like a library? Like a show's producer will just sort of type in some emotions that they're looking for, and they'll
sometimes they do it by emotion. The tags are all different. That you can put, like, something can have 30 tags on it. You'll have tags on it that might say, so for mine, you might say children, you might say baby, you might say tender, acoustic guitar, it might say bells, it might say love, you know. And so when they use they put in any of those search words, that will come up. As opposed to, let's say, vacation. You know, you could write something that's smooth jazz or something for vacation. Or you write something that that is, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, reggaeton, something that is, you know, African with, you know, the light beats and stuff, something that has steel drum in it, you know. So you put in all these different search words and they go from there.
So I get the feeling this is really a lot about meta tags.
It has to be, yeah. Yeah, if you can't find it, you can't use it.
I see.
So meta tags they're very important.
And you advised me once to be sure and put in all the various misspellings, even what things could possibly be.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, and I even put in, like, I remember somebody asked me, they wanted a calypso piece. And I was like, oh, okay. So you tell me calypso, I have a very definite idea of what calypso is. Turns out what they really wanted was Paul Simon African pop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when he did that African record and stuff, that's not calypso, but they thought it was calypso, you know, which is why I always tell people who I'm trying to work with, don't tell me the style, tell me the emotion.
Good.
Because I can follow the emotion. But if you try to tell me the style and you're wrong, then, you know, I'll be giving you calypso all day long. And really what you wanted was African pop, you know?
Yes, I have been hired so many times to play flamenco, and what they really wanted was a mariachi with a big hat.
Exactly. No, it's exactly right.
Happens a lot.
Yeah. So a lot of times that's why, like, when somebody gives me an assignment, I'll say, okay, do you have anything you've been listening to? And then I'll kind of also know where they're going with it. Because people have different ideas of what they mean when they say baby. I mean, I actually put a baby laughing at the beginning of one of my pieces, which you can take out, but I put it at the beginning of my pieces like, look, this is a baby song. Baby, look. You know,
so how do you go about connecting to the, you know, getting your libraries out to these people?
well, Universal for me, when I work with them, they do it.
Universal, okay.
Yeah, they have salespeople who do that all day long. And I don't have to deal with it. When I put out my own library, I'm gonna be more hands-on. I'm gonna go out and actually sell it myself. But I know how to sell, so it's not a big deal. Which, by the way, as a songwriter, you guys need to know how to sell too. I mean, I would actually read a sales book if I were you, because you're always selling yourself. You're always selling your song. You're always trying to get somebody to buy what you're selling, which is your music. So learn how to sell.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
would you mind just talking a little bit about your role as a producer?
Okay, so different people produce different ways, and it depends on the project. Like, if I'm asked to do I was asked to take a young artist who wasn't the best singer in the world, and produce a Disney sort of track with them. And so I did. I picked a style, and I wrote a song and produced them. In that case, they didn't have a whole lot of say. They were there to sing the song, and I was going to give it to the person who paid me to do it. In other cases, the artist is the leader and I facilitate them. You know, I've worked with artists who totally have their own vision, and the reason I love them is because they have their own vision. And so in that case, it's about finding out what they envision for their record and making that happen. You know, it requires a lot of hand holding and finesse, and then there's the artist. So, you know, we have the players have to all be happy. The artist has to be happy. Everybody needs to be happy to be in the best possible environment to work. I'm not a shouter. I don't yell at people, and you know, I'll light candles around the room if that's what will make them feel better, because it's really about emotions. It's all about emotions. And then sometimes I just produce tracks for people, and that is everything from, you know, I might program drums, I might use loops. It's everything. I have a huge loop library. I have a huge synth library, and then I hire people. And it's about knowing who to hire and how to make them work together the best. I hope I'm giving you information that's useful. Uh-oh.
Let's see what's going on there. And mute that person. All right.
There you go.
Okay. Well, I think now's a good time to kind of open it up for questions. I don't see anything in chat yet, but anyone have anything in particular?
Well, back to the library thing, you were saying Jeff had recently connected to a library, but how did you do that? I mean, how would an individual search that out and find a way to connect some music to it?
Actually, a lot of libraries, I actually started researching other libraries just to see what else was out there. And there's tons and tons of libraries out there. But here's the thing, you have to be really careful who you sign a deal with, because there are libraries out there that will take your music non-exclusively. And what that means is that you can give your music to them, you can give your music to other people, and everybody's going to represent it for you. And that's actually not a good thing, because a lot of people don't like the libraries that are non-exclusive, because they could hear it from them and then they could hear it from somewhere else, and they don't like that. They want to know that what they have is here and it belongs here, and then they can make the deal. They want to make a deal with somebody who owns the master, which is your recording, and who owns the publishing, which is your belongs to you when you write it. Because they just want to make a deal one time. They don't want to have to call a publisher for something else, and who owns the master, and they don't want to get into that. They just want it to be in one place.
So you could probably create your own publishing company then. Is that what people do?
Well, okay, so yes, you can, absolutely. I mean, when you're first writing, everything you write, it belongs to you, and you have two pieces. You have the writer's share, and then you have the publisher's share. The publisher is the one who actually owns the copyright. That's you too, okay? But if you transfer it to somebody, that's not yours anymore. And so you can't control it. And that's an important distinction. A lot of people don't get that. But what a lot of deals are is they'll split it with you. They'll split they'll split the publishing with you, and they'll split the licensing fee for your master as well. Some of them take all the publishing, but if somebody is acting as a publisher, which what a publisher does is they go out and basically like sell your music. If somebody is acting as a publisher, they should get paid as a publisher. sometimes they'll give you a budget for your demos and stuff, and sometimes they won't. It's changed a lot. But so first of all, you need to make sure that whatever you're writing and whatever you're playing is high quality. Okay. Because otherwise you get dumped into a pile of these are no good. All right. And it's easy to get in the door. It's not easy to stay in. So, you know, you want to impress people with your quality. And remember, your quality is what's on TV now. And some of it is very simple, you know, very simple stuff. Some of it's vocal, some of it's not vocal. If you do vocal, make sure that the singer is good and comparable to what you hear out there now. Not necessarily on radio, but I'm saying, like, you know, even if you listen to YouTube and stuff, they should be good singers. Their voice should be in tune. The whole thing should be of a professional quality, because you're competing with me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Aaron.
Yeah, when you're talking about quality too, certainly I get that you're talking about just being good, that the sample or whatever you're putting out there is good. But how important, and can you talk a little bit about the quality of the recording that you're submitting?
Okay.
So not just the quality of the art, I mean, I get that, but talk about the actual physical recording that you are submitting when it goes out.
Okay, so you know, given what's going on now with recording, I mean, gosh, you know, when I was starting, it was 20, you know, if you didn't have a 24 track or whatever, it was really hard. But now, you know, you can have GarageBand, and you can actually do a decent job with GarageBand and make stuff. And some of these loop libraries that are like, you know, $14 or something for a ton of loops that are guitar and bass and drums and all that stuff. You know, you can make a lot of music with that. You know, it should be good quality. It should not sound like a bad recording. It shouldn't, you know, sound like on a cassette or something. Although I will tell you, like, I've done projects, and I've heard other people do projects. Like when I was first starting out, I've done projects that were recorded that was one synth and some vocal sounds, and that was it. And I did like a whole animation project with that. And I've heard other people do stuff. You just don't want it to be noisy. You don't want it to be, you know, you want to have some basic things in there, like reverb. And you know what a lot of engineers do is they will actually, before they mix, they will listen to something commercial that they heard that they like, okay, and they'll compare it to their mix, and they'll balance from that. They'll use that. They'll go, oh, okay, listen, you know, in the style of what you're doing. So if you were doing a country song, I would pull up a good country song that, you know, has similar elements, and listen to it, and then listen to yours and see where it's lacking, or, you know, is the bass too loud? Is this too loud? You know, people say they can hear past it. Like I could hear past it because I hear arrangements in my head, but not everybody can hear past it. And a lot of publishers can't, you know, they're not musical like that. They're like publishers. So some can and some can't. I just think you need to compare yourself to stuff out there. Because again, that's who you're competing against.
Okay, well, Mr. Castillo wants to know, what is your DAW of choice?
I use Logic X.
Me too.
Yeah. I mean, I've used Pro Tools, but I don't like Pro Tools. I don't think it's as good on MIDI as Logic. And Logic has a lot of stuff that it does now that it's grown really well. And it does a lot of things, but once you learn it's pretty easy to do kind of anything you want.
What about Reaper?
Reaper? I don't know Reaper. What is it?
It's another DAW that has some popularity. I think the drawback that I've heard with it is it doesn't handle plugins well, or maybe.
Well, you know, Logic, you know, they made GarageBand pattern after Logic. So it's kind of just an extension of that. And it allows you to do things like export your files to, you know, I mean, it does really well with kind of everything because it's become so common. You know, after having gone through, I mean, one of my old DAWs went out of business suddenly. And so everything I had to, if I didn't convert it, I was screwed. And I didn't convert a lot of it. So I was screwed. So I prefer having a big company that's not going to go out of business and dump it.
Jeff, you have some questions?
Yeah, Claire, I had a couple of questions going back to the music library things. It's kind of a twofold question. One is it your experience in general that the non-exclusive deals, they don't take your publishing, but they're not gonna be actively pitching stuff as much as an exclusive deal, which will want your publishing, but
Right.
they're also going to be more active. And then the second half of my question is, do you know anything about Sync Shop, which is who I signed a non-exclusive deal with?
I don't know about Sync Shop. There's so many of them out there. I just know that a lot of I mean, you can pull it anytime you want, which is great. But the thing I don't like is that some of these guys, they build a library and their intention is just to get a massive catalog, which they will then try to sell. So it's just about gathering stuff. I would rather have a boutique that's really going to work me, because it's all about their relationships, and it's all about, you know, the thing I do know is I have a lot of friends who are music supervisors, and they don't want to deal with a non-exclusive. But is that how you got your placement?
I haven't gotten any placements. I just signed 11 tunes with Sync Shop. Yeah, and that was through Broad Jam.
Okay. Well, you know, I mean, look, it doesn't hurt, but you won't be able to sign those with other people, because even though it's non-exclusive, the only other people you go to is non-exclusive. I would rather I be with somebody who's actively selling my music, you know. You know, I know that as soon as I put something into the library at Universal, I know that it's going, and I know I'm going to see money from it, because they sell it. They sell everything they get, and they sell it hard. You know, they have a long list of people they work with, and, you know, there's a lot of, I mean, yeah, I just wouldn't. That's just me. You know, I just wouldn't. I would rather it be with a label. And so to libraries. So I was doing some active looking at these other libraries, and I found some really, wait a minute, did I? I did. Oh my gosh, I forgot that I had done this. So music libraries. So there's Warner Chappell, there's musicsupervisor.us, there's Audio Sparks, there's, let me see, 411 Music Group, there's Tune Fruit, and there's actually a website called the musiclibraryreport.com. And it's not full. I mean, it's not full, but they do have different companies on there that talk about, do they let you submit? Do they review your submissions? What's the kind of music they like? And do they retitle? So here's the thing now with retitling. Does anybody know what that means?
Does that affect your rights somehow?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. When back in the day, people would give their music to a library and they would just retitle it. And that way you still had your song, but now they had a different name of your song. So they could sell it to libraries. And there was a reason for this, because a lot of people didn't want to have their songs with libraries. But you know, they had it sitting around and it's like, okay, you can take another version of it. But the problem with that is now that they stamp them. So you can't sell your original one anymore, because if you like try to put it up on YouTube, YouTube goes, oh no, this belongs.
Strike.
Yeah, this belongs to someone else. It's like, no, that happened to me. A piece of music that I am a co-writer on, somebody else put up, and I can't get at it. Like you know what I mean? It's like their name is on it and they are a co-writer, but I can't even get my portion of it because they retitled it. So it's like, okay. So you have to be careful now with retitles, because they get stamped and then they come up.
And if it's retitled, then you're not going to get back end royalties either, because that retitle you don't have registered with your PRO. Is that right?
They register it, or you can register the retitle. Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And in fact, like a bunch of my old catalog, I was looking up, like I saw that it was played on a TV show, and it was called Old School with a K. And I went looking for it because I didn't remember that title. And so I went to my library and said, I can't, you know, what song was this and where did it come from and which one is it? Because I want to know what was used. So it can get, you know, they don't do it anymore. Most you should just don't go into retitles, because it'll come back to bite you. But yeah, that was a common thing. Yeah, so libraries, 5-alarm music. There's a lot of libraries that you get to submit to on their website even. And I went to one and they were offering music for sale. And I said, well, how do you decide the price? And they said, well, you know, and how does the artist get paid? Because it was royalty free, which is no back end, which if anybody doesn't know what that means, let me know. But if it's no back end and you're not sharing in the upfront, there's no point. And you need to kind of make sure that the library you're working with stays on them to fill out their cue sheets. Because sometimes they don't even do that, and then you don't get paid.
I think too, I had submitted some tunes to Artlist, and it was a little unclear on their website, and then they wrote me back and were interested, and I thought, oh, this is great. And then I read their contract and I was like, oh, they're offering royalty-free music, and they'll give you $30 every time someone downloads the tune, and I just didn't even pursue that.
Yeah, because how do you know? That's the other thing. How do you know? You know, you have to be, at the time that my second child was 3, I happened to be, you know, TV was on for kid stuff all the time. And the Sprout Network had just started. And they were using a piece that I had written as part of their theme. And I was like, oh yeah, this is fantastic, you know, because it was with Universal. So I waited 9 months, you know, I recorded a few of them. I waited 9 months and nothing. I waited 3 more months because it takes 9 months from the beginning of something, and still nothing. And I got in touch with Universal. I said, hey, they're using this piece of music. They've been using it and it's playing. It must have been played now. If I do the math, it was playing every 3 hours, you know, then at least if you were to even just get a penny per song or per use, it would be $5,000. you know, and they were like, no, no, that's not possible. Come to find out that an advertising agency was given the job to come up with the theme for the Sprout Network. They used part of this music with the theme, and it was incorporated, and they didn't pay for it. And they didn't tell anybody. And if it hadn't happened to be that I had a 3-year-old at the time, I wouldn't have known. And if I hadn't recorded a few of them, because I was really proud to say, hey, look, I got a theme, they wouldn't have believed me. And then they had to sue the advertising agency. And when it was all said and done, the ad agency just basically paid what they should have paid in the first place. And there were no penalties or anything like that, which really sucked. But it shows you that you kind of have to trust that the company you're with is willing to do that, like sue the ad agency. Because they just didn't tell anybody. And, you know, now they're very hard about letting you download their music. But back then they would send out CDs. And so people would have these CDs of music and you didn't know if they used them or not. So in that sense, it's a better situation. But listen to some of these libraries, listen to the quality of them. And then wonder why shows like Beachfront Bargain Hunt. I watch a lot of these trashy TV shows because they use a lot of library, and Beachfront Bargain Hunt uses a lot of really simple loop stuff. And I know that they're just grabbing a loop and another loop and they're putting them together, and 5 minutes later you got a piece. Next. You know, this is like, it's not brain surgery. So you're competing with orchestral, and then you're competing with, you know, something so simple. If it's contemporary, you have a better shot at it. If you have a good singer around, you know, like I'm looking for singers now because I need to find people who are local and good, who can sing some of this stuff. And then you start to niche what you think is going to do the best. You know, what kind of music is going to sell the most. I can tell you that like a lot of shows like the HGTV and Beachfront Bargain Hunt and all those companies, they use a lot of just loopy reggaeton, poppy stuff, really simple.
You advised me to watch home improvement shows as research.
Well, you know, I'm telling you, well, you know, here's the thing. They have back-to-back music. So like, you know, I learned such a big lesson when I was doing that drag racing show, because it was 45 minutes. It was an hour show. It was 45 minutes of back-to-back music. And, you know, when you start trying to fill 45 minutes with back-to-back music, you realize how much music you go through, you know? Because we only had a few themes. It was a theme for this team, a theme for that team. Then we had a couple of themes for when there was like drama, but everything else was just kind of like meandering music, and you had to fill it, and it's a lot of music. So these shows are very, very music driven. And we're lucky because the Discovery Channel was trying to make all their composers work with no back end. And the songwriting community rose up and screamed at them, and they stopped. But that was going to happen. It looked pretty bad.
Claire, it seems as though you kind of write in a couple of different ways. So you're writing definitely proactively listening to what's out there and saying, that's something I'm interested in. I'll craft something that sort of fits in that market, in that niche. And then you have other people that come to you and say, I'm going to commission you, Claire, can you write me a piece that fits in this thing, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a third, I'm sure there's a third that we haven't talked much about, which is your heart music or your art music? And how does that fit in any of this money-making structure, or does it?
Well, no, it does. It does. It does. So I always laugh because it's like somebody will play me something and it'll be really beautiful, but it doesn't fit anything that I need, or they ask me to, and I always say, save it for your solo project, which is what I do. I save it for my solo project, and then I make a record or something. Like right now, I've been gathering up all this world music stuff because I really love world music. It's some of my favorite stuff. And I've just been kind of thinking about, oh yeah, I really want to do this. This is going to make me happy. Like right this minute, I'm in babyland, so I can't think about it. But when I'm done with Babyland, actually when I'm done with Babyland, I'm doing summertime pop. After this, I have to do summertime pop music, and then I can go to do the project I want to do. That it's the thing. It's like you're so exhausted from working that you don't want to work anymore. But my best music has come out of times when I don't have a job and I just write, and or I'm pissed, which sometimes is half the job. No, I mean, yeah, I love to write what I love to write, and you have to make time for that, But
Does that music ever make it into the libraries? And do you try, or, I mean, it's probably not why you're writing it, but have you had any success taking some of that art music or heart music and selling it?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, because I'm kind of I've given I've given some pieces of music to the library that have been really weird, and I'll get a call, and he'll be like, "What was that?" And then I'll see it on my my BMI check, and it'd be, somebody used that. Like what? I mean, it was. I wrote a piece of music for a guy who's had a film, and he had this scene. He showed me the scene, and he said, I want a song here, and I wrote this really ethereal, weird kind of song called Please Forgive Me, and it was based on his video, but he decided to go a different way. He didn't want to have a song there after all, and I had this piece of music that I'd produced, and I was like, in my house, no music goes unused. If there's a scrap of something, I will find a home for it. No, so somebody used it. And I mean, yeah, it was so weird because people like all kinds of stuff. So, and then I sometimes have to convince my boss that like, hey, I really want to do this, African sports music. Let's do it.
This is where your sales skills come in, right? So you're also selling the music to the people that are going to be selling your music or using your music, right?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, no, actually, I think one of the reasons that I got kept for this long is because every year he had a meeting with the salespeople, and he'd have like projects, and I never expected, like, actually, this is like being a female part of me. So as a female, I never got hired in the beginning to produce anything. I had to go find the artist and put him with the label and say, you're going to let me produce this, right? And, and luckily for me, they did. But I had to find my own work. I had to make my place. So with the library, instead of kind of waiting for him to give me assignments, because I really hate assignments, I would give him a list of like 15 or 20 projects, and they would be described. Like I would say, this one is going to be sports Americana, and this one is going to be, for the presidential election, it's going to be this kind of music, and it's going to be for the election. And this one's going to be for families and fun. So I would give him all these projects, and then at the end I would say, pick 10. You know? And he'd like pick 4, but I had 4 instead of 1. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
I always gave him way more than I knew he would take. And then I would say, these are my favorites, and you pick, you go in front of your salespeople. Basically what I was doing was making his life easier, because he could go in front of the salespeople and go, what do you think of any of these? And I would get jobs. So, you know, oh my gosh, I mean, I've done heavy metal rap. I've done, you know, oh God, I've done every style, you know, every style. So even styles I didn't know how to do, I'd learn how to do. So you as a songwriter need to be able to kind of deconstruct what is out there. And so regarding songwriting, I've worked with a lot of songwriters who, when I was poor and broke, one of the things I do is I do their demos for them. And they'd come to me with their publisher's money and they'd say, we need a demo that's for this song. And they would tell me, we need it to be like the Beach Boys, you know, song that's like this. And so we would do it in the style of, right? We wouldn't copy it. It was their song, but we would do it in the style of. Well, a lot of times songwriters are like, hey, I want a new song that's like, oh God, what is her name? Who's so popular right now? She just won like 5 Grammys.
Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish. Everybody wants Billie Eilish. Everybody. In fact, on producer loops, which is where I buy loops sometimes, there's a whole thing of just in the style of Billie Eilish. And so they copped all of that. But that's a lot of times publishers will give you that. They're like, I want Billie Eilish. And they'll try to find an artist that's like Billie Eilish. I just heard a song just this morning that, hang on, I'll tell you what it was, because I always use my Shazam, because I always want to know what these songs are. Where is it? Oh, it's too far down. But I heard it and I knew exactly the song they had lifted. They didn't lift it, but I knew who they were listening to when they made that song. In fact, me and my significant other, we play a game. What was the original song? And we'll listen to all these games, all these shows on TV, and we play the game. What song was this lifted from? And he says I've ruined him because now he knows.
Well, we've got also have a question. Someone wanted to know what prompted your move to Kansas City from Los Angeles, and you know, do you feel it's a more fertile location for professional growth in some ways?
Well, okay, so I wanted a place that was, I'm a single mom, and I wanted a place that was better for my daughter, who at the time was 15. I was not happy. So LA is really expensive. And when I was married, my kids went to private schools. But the schools in LA are really horrible, horrible, horrible. And so I was looking around, where can I get a decent place that I can live in a nice house and have my kid go to great schools and and you know, kind of be happy. And hi.
Hi. I was just asking my dad, can we have some breakfast?
What?
I want breakfast.
You want breakfast?
Yeah.
All right, 10 minutes. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Anyway, so I wanted a place that was like more family friendly, that wasn't the city anymore because I was worried about my daughter. I didn't want her growing up in the high schools that were there. And the people she was starting to hang out with were, you know, not great. And so I wanted to go be somewhere. And my now significant other thought it was a great idea. And so I did. And I love it here. So far, I mean, the thing that convinced me to do it was I have a great, what's the word I'm looking for? I have a great basis in LA. So people don't even know I'm gone, you know? I still have a phone number. I still have an address there. And frankly, I do so much work by the internet that it does not matter where I live. And so I like living here. It's a great place. I'm still trying to find all my peoples though. So there.
We'll take care of you. Let's see. Diana had a great question. Outside of the pandemic, what is the biggest impediment for Kansas City becoming more of a music industry town that supports the art of the song of all genres?
Well, I think that having this group is really helpful. I think that's a great thing. The biggest impediment, I think that when you're in LA, what the difference is, one of the differences from here to LA is that in LA, you're looking at everybody's coming there to do that, to write, to play, to do that. And so people learn from each other. You know, you're hearing things all the time that are high level. And you learn by doing. And I think that right now, Kansas City is decentralized. There's not a central feeling here yet of a music scene. Like I don't see a big music scene. I know Brandon is great. I love to go see him play. And I know that there's jazz players out there. But I think that I haven't seen a level yet, and that I think could be reached. I think people don't have a chance to know, you know? Over there, it's like it's in your face. Everybody is writing these songs that are amazing, and you know, people coming in, there's schools there and stuff, and so people coming in. I mean, I was teaching at the LA College of Music, and the kids coming in were amazing, but they had selected themselves to go there. I think if there were a centralized place here that people could go and work on songs and interact with each other and build their levels up, I think that would be really helpful.
Well, fantastic. We've got about 5 more minutes. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
I'm here. Ask me questions.
Really, really appreciate you sharing all this information with us. And I know that you've had a diverse career. So you mentioned something earlier, and this is a little bit off topic from the submissions in library, but you said that you realized you didn't enjoy performing live anymore.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. So I think people in the outside of our industry looking in assume that everybody writes, plays, performs, and loves all parts of it, but I see those facets very differently as well. And so I think it's interesting that you have such a deep love of music and it's so completely immersed, but not the performance side. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I have really bad stage fright, like so bad, like I want to throw up when I get on stage. I got to play an 8,000 seat state, like 8,000 seat place in the Philippines because one of my songs became a big hit there. And I got off the plane and there were like newspaper people and I was not used to it. I mean, I'd been, you know, I flew first class. I'd never flown first class. I I was completely out of my element. And I go and I do this concert in front of 8,000 people who were singing along with me. And it was amazing. But at the same time, I couldn't go anywhere and like eat a sandwich or something without, they reported about me every single day in the newspaper. I was there like 2 weeks. I have like, every day of the paper, I was in the paper. And I don't like that kind of attention. It's not for me. I'm a good background person. I'm great to like be in the studio, shove a pizza under the door and go away. That's who I am, and I'm outgoing, but not in front of big groups of people. And, at the same time, like one of the artists that I produced, this guy, Michael Ruff, who's an amazing performer, he's like so quiet, but he gets on stage and he's like another person, but put him in the studio and he freezes up. Whereas I go in the studio and I come alive. I'm like, oh yeah, 6 hours, I'm still in, 12 hours. I mean, I can go all night. I'll just do it. Hence the chair. But I do love it. It's a part of me every single day. I just don't like all those eyes on me.
I think it's encouraging to have you here and to have this conversation because as I was saying, I think a lot of people think singer-songwriter, so that if you are writing music, you're probably performing it. And in places like Nashville and LA, there's lots of people that are writing songs that are not performing it.
Exactly.
I don't think there's that much of that here. But I think that there are maybe a lot of people that need the encouragement that you can write your songs, but you don't necessarily have to be out there performing them.
Yeah.
And vice versa. I think also there are some people who are terrific performers that maybe aren't generative. And that's great too. Like trying to get both of those sides together. I think it's rare that someone is great at writing and performing and, selling yourself. It's probably not a skill everyone has. So it could work at different angles. It's very encouraging to have you here.
Well, and that's the thing is like, actually, I have a really unique voice that is not necessarily a commercial voice. People like it. They buy my records, whatever. That's great. But I don't sound like I don't have the kind of voice that could sing a general pop song. So my songs, unless they're sung by other people, won't sell. I have to have them sung by somebody who's got like a pop voice or whatever kind of voice it is that I'm writing for. They have to have that voice. So I hire other singers all the time because I'm not that necessarily that person. If you want me, you get me. But most of the time, it's not me you want. You want Billie Eilish. And I'll make the Billie Eilish track, But I mean, I love writing songs. I love making music. And when it's great, it's really great. And when it's awful, it's so bad. It's just, sometimes it's particularly great. But so if I can give you anything with songwriting, the thing I would say, the thing that I would say that's really important to me is that even the one thing, when you're working with a project, you have to get it done. And so you're working, you suck, this piece sucks so bad. You can choose to like, okay, maybe this isn't going to be any better. And you go somewhere else and make another piece. But having the deadline pushes you into writing good stuff where you might otherwise walk away and go, oh, I'm not going to do any more today. When you're writing for a project, you don't have that luxury. You have to finish. So I would say, give yourself deadlines and finish. Even if you walk away and write something else, give yourself deadlines. That has been, and that I think that's valid for a lot of songwriters. They go out there, they want to pitch it to so-and-so, and now you got 2 days, finish it. If it doesn't sell, at least they know that they can give you the job, and you'll finish it. So, because a lot of people don't finish it or don't you know, don't you have a job. This is like a job, and you have to finish, you have to work, you have to drive yourself. And being a songwriter is hard because you don't have to drive yourself. I do, because this is the only way I've been making money for, I won't even say how many years, but yeah, a long time.
Okay, Diana has a comment.
Okay.
You're muted.
We can't hear you.
I see what happened.
Okay.
My stack of CDs fell on top of my microphone and turned the button off. I'm one of the founding members of Heartland Song Network, and I'm not a musician. I'm not a songwriter. I'm just a lover of music and a patron. And one of the things I just wanted to say before we stop today is this is exactly the kind of information that I wanted to be able to know that there was out there to provide to our musicians and our songwriters that are here in Kansas City. Because I have spent a lot of time in Austin and Nashville, not LA. And I personally believe that the talent level that we have here is as good as anything anywhere. And that we would like to be able to keep this talent here in Kansas City so that people don't have to go move to LA or Nashville or Austin, and that they should be able to stay here and make a living. And I didn't even know about libraries. I didn't know that that was even an option. So I'm happy to know that there's perhaps another avenue for revenue for our songwriters that are right here, if they choose to take advantage of that path, because at the end of the day, we all want to hear it.
Sure.
We all want to hear what you have to say and play. And I just want to thank everybody who's on here today that took time out of their day to take a listen, and to thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot. I have no idea what I'm going to do with this information myself, but I just want people to know that is one of the things that we were trying to accomplish when we first thought about putting this together, is to create a network and a home base for our musicians and our artists that are right here in Kansas City, to try to get them work so that they can make a living here without having to leave.
Well, you know, that's kind of what I'm hoping to see too, because like I'm here and I was like, I got to find all these people and put them to work for me.
We're all here and ready.
Yeah.
Hey,
well, I mean, the
Speaking
thing
of
is,
putting there, I think Jessica Page has a question, right? Yeah.
Hi, it is so nice to Zoom meet you. This has been extremely informative and so incredibly helpful. And I was just curious if you had the time or interest in doing like mentoring people, if we could buy you coffee and get more information from you.
well, so here's the thing. It's actually interesting you said that, because I've been trying to get a job at KU to teach songwriting. And right now, because of COVID, I was going to actually start in September. And now because of COVID, it's like, whoa, that's gone for a minute. But I was thinking of doing some coaching things, and maybe making an app or something that would be combined with the coaching. One of the things that I taught at LA College of Music that I really enjoyed teaching was, I had a thing called Songwriting the Whole Story. And basically, so from caveman to today's music, I went through all these different styles and where they came from, so that you have a sense, because the thing is, they're still using all these styles. And so each style I would bring up, and then everybody would write a song in that style. And so you'd learn how to write a blues, you'd learn how to write a 50s song or whatever, and you'd learn how to write all these different songs. And in the process, you would get better, and we would talk about lyrics, and there would be, I really want to teach, actually. If everybody was interested in doing something like that, I would love to teach, and I'd love to work with songwriters and get them. I would love to see a community here, and I would love to take everything I've learned and bring it in, you know? I think, yeah, I'm totally interested in doing all kinds of stuff.
Who's in?
So I would totally be interested in that kind of stuff. And also for my library, I mean, I'm building that. So, you know, so here's the thing, depending on your stuff, like, so there's taxi, which you pay for, which I don't like, because I don't like that sort of thing. It's a gatekeeper, and I don't like gatekeepers, but gatekeepers can sometimes be necessary. I would rather bring people along and bring them to where they need to be, and be honest and raw about, hey, this song is really good up to here, but you know, listen to these kinds of things and see where I'm going with it, you know, in terms of your style or whatever. I mean, I kind of just want to help people along. I would like to see this town be something stronger, you know? There is no reason why people can't live in Kansas City and make a living doing music, especially now in the days of internet and Zoom. I mean, you guys could be writing a song through Zoom right now and record it, you know, with certain basic equipment that doesn't cost so much money. You know, you can get a USB mic, you know, for like $100 and plug it into your laptop and do it. Yeah. Why don't we do stuff?
Well, that's what the infrastructure of this organization would be really good at. So yeah, I think we can plan something that could facilitate that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm happy to see so many people like who are from here. That this is great, because I'm just, you know, I'm kind of in my room, and unless you, or unless, you know, other people like introduce me to other people, I just hang out here and plant watermelons.
Well, I love the stylistic prompt idea. That sounds like a really good time.
It actually is. It is some of the most fun I've ever had. And my students really enjoyed it, because they had to learn where it comes from. Where it comes from is really interesting. And when you start to know this, it's like, oh, this is from African music, and this is from this, and like and then you start to hear new songs, and you can start to pinpoint, oh yeah, that's, you know, that's a call and release, and blah, blah, blah. And so, I would call and repeat, sorry. You know, so you start to know. And I mean, you know, I think that this is knowledge that songwriters could really use, because like I said, I went to Berkeley and I have a degree in composition, but the songwriting class was just about lyrics, and it was one semester, and that was it. There was no, you know, you had to learn. Nobody was guiding you. Having somebody guide you can make a huge difference. So yeah, mentors.
Excellent. Well, we've kept you here longer than our hour. So thank you so much, Claire. And I wanted to let everyone know our next webinar is going to be about copyright law with George Carver from Austin, Texas. And he's a very interesting individual, extremely intelligent, also a fine songwriter himself. So I'll be sending out information for that in the next few days.
And you guys can feel free to contact me if you want. I mean, my website is my website. There's an email there, and go ahead and talk to me.
Okay, I posted her website and her IMDb there in the chat, so you can see that there.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Claire.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Nice to see everyone.
Nice to see you guys. Thank you for coming. All right. Bye.
Bye.